Weaklings in uniform.
Say it again.
Arden Miller stood on the threshold of his own house at 3 in the morning, and the key would not go into the lock. His hands were shaking not from the cold, though the March wind in Pennsylvania knifed straight through his jacket. It was just that his fingers would not obey him. 7 months in the desert, where any sound could be the last, and now he could not open his own door. When he finally managed to turn the key, the silence hit harder than any explosion. "Grace?" The word came out empty because he already knew. He had known back at the airport when his commanding officer was there to meet him instead of his wife and son, wearing that look. He had known when they handed him the envelope with their things. He had known, but his body refused to believe it. Do not scroll. The most interesting part is next. Subscribe, hit like, and drop a comment. He flipped on the light. Liam's little sneakers by the stairs, blue ones, with a broken lace he had planned to fix before he shipped out. Grace's coffee cup on the table, half finished. The wall calendar frozen on October, the day they were gone. Arden made it to the sideboard, pulled out a bottle of bourbon. He did not bother with a glass drank from the neck until his throat stopped burning. Then some more, and more. The phone rang at 5 in the morning. His unit commander. Arden declined the call without looking. A second call, the psychologist from the military hospital. Declined. A third, some number he did not recognize. He declined and powered the phone off. The knee that had been wounded 2 years earlier in Afghanistan throbbed. He was out of painkillers. He had swallowed the last of them at the airport. Arden hauled himself upstairs, dragging the bad leg. He stopped at the door to the kids' room. He did not open it. He could not. Instead, he fell onto the bed in the bedroom that still smelled like her perfume. He closed his eyes and saw what he had seen every night for the past 3 months. The face of that civilian man in Kabul, standing by the entrance at the wrong time. Intelligence had said, "Threat." His finger had squeezed, and then a woman appeared. Also at the wrong time. Also in the wrong place. His report had said, "Protocol followed." The investigation opened had said, "Possible misidentification." Grace and Liam died 2 weeks after that operation. A drunk driver, a wet road, the oncoming lane. But Arden knew the truth. It was balance. He had taken 2 were taken from him. Henry Miller showed up on the 7th day. He did not call, did not warn, just arrived in his old pickup with a suitcase and a box. Arden opened the door, bracing himself on the jam. He had not shaved for 3 days and had eaten nothing but bourbon and aspirin. "Get the hell out," he said, trying to bring his father into focus. "I need a place to spend the night," Henry answered simply. "A motel costs too much." "Not my problem." "Arden, do not call me that like you have the right." Henry set down the suitcase. His face was stone, as always. 63 years old, silver hair combed back, a scar across his neck, a souvenir from Vietnam. Eyes as dark as Arden's, only sun bleached by time. "I am not leaving," the old man said. "You can hate me right here." Arden swung. He truly swung. The fist went toward his father's jaw, but the bad knee buckled, and he fell. Henry caught him under the elbows, held him up. "Let go, when you can stand on your own." So they stayed like that, the son hanging from his father's arms, gasping with rage, while Henry said nothing. Finally, Arden shoved him away and, darting back inside, slammed the door. Henry carried the suitcase up onto the porch and sat in the old woven chair. He pulled a thermos of coffee. He waited. By evening, Arden staggered onto the porch, lips pale, eyes pinned on nothing. "What do you want?" "Nothing." "That is a lie." "Will you eat breakfast?" "Leave me alone." Henry nodded, poured coffee into the thermos cap, set it on the railing. He walked into the house past Arden without touching him. The next morning, Arden woke to the smell of frying bacon. He came downstairs. Henry stood at the stove, cooking eggs. On the table, a plate, a fork, salt. "I did not ask for this." "I know." "I am not eating." Henry slid the eggs onto the plate and sat across from him. He ate in silence. Arden stared at him, jaw clenched, then suddenly grabbed the fork and started to eat. He swallowed without chewing, as if he were punishing himself. "Taste good?" Henry asked. "Go to hell." Aha. Henry did not back off. He fixed the lawn mower in the yard, though Arden had not asked. He replaced burned-out light bulbs. He left newspaper clippings on the table. A Veterans Affairs program for vets, free session with a psychologist, support group on Wednesdays. Arden tore them up and threw them away. A week later, Henry said, "Drive me to Greenfield. I have business there." "Call a cab." "Too expensive." "Not my problem." Henry nodded and started walking down the road on foot. Arden watched from the window as his father went along the highway with a cane, limping, an old wound making itself known. 10 minutes later, Arden burst out of the house and started the truck. "Get in," he grunted. Greenfield turned out to be a small town about 20 miles away. Henry led his son to a church basement where veterans met. A sign on the door, "Support Group, open to all." "No," Arden said. "Sit in for 5 minutes." "No. I need to go in. Will you wait in the truck?" Henry went inside. Arden stood by the door for another 10 minutes, smoked, then went in. Inside, chairs in a circle. A man around 40 with a sun-faded army tattoo on his forearm, a woman in coveralls with a chaplain's patch, a few younger folks, and a young woman around 30, dark hair, reserved face, hands stained with paint. "New guy?" the tattooed man asked. "No, I am just the driver." "Roy," he said, introducing himself. "Medic. 22 years in, 3 tours. If you are afraid to sit, stand. If you are afraid to talk, do not. If you are afraid to stay, leave. But if you came in, something is pulling you." Arden sat in the corner, arms crossed. Henry settled opposite him. The chaplain Marisol, as she introduced herself, spoke about a night call program. For those who cannot stand being alone. For those who sit in their car by a bridge. For those who just need to hear a voice. The young woman with paint on her hands, Kira, talked about a workshop for military kids. They made wooden flags for charity, taught them how to build furniture. She had been 6 when they told her about her father. Now she was a teacher. Arden listened, fists tight. He wanted to leave. He could not. When the circle ended, Roy came over to him. "You all right?" "Yeah." "What is your name?" "None of your business." "Okay, but if you ever want to talk, here is my number." Arden took the slip, crumpled it, shoved it into his pocket. Kira passed by without looking at him. Henry left in silence with his son. On the drive back, the cab of the truck was quiet. Then Arden said, "Do not drag me there again." "Okay, I mean it." "So do I." Arden tightened his grip on the wheel. "They do not know." "What exactly?" "They do not know what I did." Henry was silent for a long time. Then he said, "Do you know what I did in Vietnam?" Arden did not answer. That same evening, Arden drank himself unconscious. He woke on the kitchen floor, his face in a puddle of water. Henry stood over him with a wet towel. "How much did you drink?" "Back off." "Arden, listen." "No." Arden lurched to his feet, arms flailing. "You have no right. You were not even there when she called, when he needed a dad. You just show up with your clippings, and your coffee like that fixes anything." "I know." "No, you do not." "I was not there when you were a kid," Henry said quietly. "When you had nightmares. When your mother died. When you enlisted to prove something to me I never asked for. I was not there, but I am here now." Arden shoved him in the chest. "You are here out of guilt, not for me, for your own damned guilt." Henry did not step back. "Correct. Out of guilt, and what of it?" Arden drew back to punch again, but his father caught his fist and held it. "Hit me if it helps. I am not leaving." Arden tore free, panting. He went outside, got in the truck. He drove until dawn along roads he remembered from childhood. He came back in the morning. Henry was asleep on the living room couch. On the table, a box. Old, cardboard, tied with string. Arden opened it. Inside letters, dozens of letters. Yellowed envelopes addressed to him, but without postmarks. Written by hand in his father's neat script. Son, today I saw a little boy playing with a ball in the park. I thought of you. I am sorry that I did not. Arden, it is hard for me to talk. It always has been, but I want you to know. If I cannot say this out loud, read it here. I am proud of you. I always have been. Letters that had never been sent. Years of letters. Arden sat on the floor, reading them one after another, and he cried. Not like in recent months, not silently, not hidden, loudly, desperately. When Henry woke up, his son was still there, letters all around. Why did you never send them? Arden whispered. I was afraid. Of what? That you would not answer. That you would hate me even more. That you would never forgive me. Henry sat down beside him. Everything is frightening when you have lost something. Arden reached out his hand. Henry took it. They sat like that until morning. The call came 3 days later. Official. A military board of inquiry. Civilian casualties. Testimony required. Arden drove to the hearing alone. Henry offered to go, his son refused. He sat in a sterile office on base and answered questions. In detail, rules of engagement, threat assessment, why he pulled the trigger, why he pulled it a second time. A lieutenant colonel in glasses took notes. A young lieutenant sat to the side with a tablet. Were you certain of the target's identification? Yes. Based on what? Behavior, posture, situational context. Did you see a weapon? A pause. Did you see a weapon, Sergeant Miller? No, sir. But you fired anyway? Yes. Why? Arden stared at the wall. Because the protocol allowed it. The situation met the threat criteria. But there was no weapon. No. The lieutenant colonel took off his glasses. Sergeant, we are not accusing you. We are trying to understand. Help us. I cannot help you. Why not? Because I do not know whether it was a threat. Silence. Repeat that. I do not know. Maybe yes. Maybe no. I fired because I was afraid. And then they died. And now my family is dead. And I do not know whether it is connected. But every night I see their faces. And my wife's face. And my son's. And I do not know where the war ends and my guilt begins. The lieutenant colonel set down his pen. Sergeant, you need help. I need answers. We cannot give you answers. Arden stood and walked out. He spent that evening at a bar on the edge of town, a place where no one knew his face. He drank until the bartender refused to pour. Then someone down the rail said something about weaklings in uniform. Arden did not process the words. He just saw a mouth, heard a tone. He hit the man. The man hit back. Arden did not feel pain, only the satisfaction of something physical, legible, fair. The police arrived 5 minutes later. Henry picked him up from the station at 3 in the morning. He posted bail. He led him to the truck. Do not say anything, Arden warned. I am not going to. Then why are you here? Because you called me, not someone else. Arden climbed into the pickup and dropped his head into his hands. I cannot take this. You can. You do not understand. I took them. Do you get it? And now Grace and Liam are dead, and it is balance. It is fair. Henry sat in silence. Then he said, Far away, I obeyed an order after which an entire settlement disappeared from the map. Later, we learned there were civilians among the dead. I could have questioned the command, but I did not stop. When I came home, your mother withdrew. I did not tell her, and she sensed it anyway. I thought, I will work more, harden up, switch off my feelings, and that will fix something. It did not. I lost my family twice. The first time there, in the ash of my own choices. the second time here in our silence. Arden turned to his father. Why did you never tell me? Because I was afraid you would see me as I am. Henry tightened his grip on the wheel. But now I am more afraid of losing you for good. The next day Henry suggested, let us go for a drive. Arden did not argue. He got in the truck and closed his eyes. Henry drove the pickup calmly along country roads. He stopped by a small park. There is a memorial here. Want to take a look? They walked to a stone stele. Names, dozens of names. Among them, the name Sean Davis, Arden's best friend from his first tour. I did not go to the funeral, Arden said. I know. I could not look his mother in the eye. And now? Arden ran his fingers over the carved name. Now I think he would have wanted me to be there. The second stop, Kira's place. A modest house with a big garage out back. Henry knocked. Kira opened the door, a little surprised, but she smiled. Henry, Arden. Can we see the shop? Henry asked. Inside, the garage smelled of fresh wood. Kids, 4 grade schoolers, were sanding boards for flags. Kira showed them how to hold a tool, how to work with the grain. Want to try? She asked Arden. He wanted to refuse, but he saw one of the boys about 9, who looked a little like Liam, struggling to hold a chisel. Give that here, Arden said. He crouched beside the kid and showed him how to hold it, how to press. The boy tried it, worked. Cool, do you make flags too? I used to, a long time ago. And now? Arden glanced at Kira. She stood off to the side, watching. Now I do not know. They stayed about an hour. Arden did not do anything, just watched the kids work. But something inside him eased a little. The third stop, the VA hospital. Henry parked by the entrance. Roy set up a consult, free of charge, today at 3. Henry checked his watch. It is 2:50. You set me up. Yes. Arden climbed out and slammed the door. Henry stayed in the truck. Inside, Roy waited by the desk. Hey, ready? No. That tracks. Not many people are. They went into a small office. The psychologist, a woman in her 50s, with short hair and a steady gaze. Arden? Yes. Sit, or stand, whatever is comfortable. He sat, hands on his knees, back straight. What are you feeling right this moment? Anger. At whom? Everyone. At me too. Yes. Why? Because you are trying to get inside my head. She nodded. Okay, what if I do not try? What if we just sit here? They sat in silence. 5 minutes. 10. Arden clenched his fists and unclenched them, breathed. Then he stood up. I cannot. He walked out. Roy hurried after him. Arden, wait. Leave me alone. On the bench by the entrance sat Henry. Arden strode past, but his father did not move. I told you. I know. I am not ready. I know. Henry pulled out the thermos, poured coffee, set it on the bench. Sit for a minute. Arden sat. He took a sip, then another. I ran too, Henry said. From the first session, from the second, from the 5th, from the 10th. I thought if I talked about it, it would get worse. Turned out, if you stay silent, you disappear. I am already gone. Not yet. Henry set his hand on his son's shoulder. If you were gone, you would not be sitting here. A week later, Arden signed up for group therapy, not because he wanted to, because Henry said, if you do not go, I will not go either. And Arden realized his father needed that group too. After the second session, Marisol asked him to join the night call line. You just pick up the phone. If someone calls, you listen. You do not advise, you do not treat. You just stay on the line. I am not a therapist. You do not have to be. You just have to not hang up. He agreed. The first call came at 2 in the morning. A young voice, shaking. Hello? I am here. I do not know why I called. That is all right. I am sitting in my car, by a bridge. I am thinking about things. Arden tightened his grip on the phone. I sat in a car once too, not by a bridge, but I was thinking the same thoughts. What stopped you? Nothing noble, I just did not have the courage. That is not funny. I am not joking. I was afraid it would hurt, afraid it would not work, afraid it would work, and someone would find me and blame themselves. Just fear. Silence on the other end. Then, are you still afraid now? Yes, every day. But you are alive. I am trying. They talked for another half hour. The kid finally said he would drive home. Arden hung up and could not sleep until dawn. In the morning, he decided to put his hands to use. Henry remembered that the old school stadium where Liam used to play needed repairs. Arden drove over. The stadium was truly falling apart. The bleachers were rotten, the fence twisted. But something about the place pulled at him. He took tools from the truck and started clearing debris. He had been working for 2 hours when he heard a voice. Need a hand. He turned. A woman around 35, light red hair in a ponytail, jeans, and a flannel shirt. Her face looked familiar, but he could not place it. No. She came closer, crouched, started picking up nails. Serafina, Sarah, we met at Grace's wedding. His heart clenched. I remember. She was my best friend. Sarah didn't look at him. She kept working. I was there when it happened. Arden froze. You were at the hospital. Yes, I volunteer there. They called me because Grace asked for me. She could still talk. His throat tightened. What did she say? Sarah finally lifted her eyes. Green, clear. Not now. When you're ready. I'm ready. No. She held out a thermos of coffee. But you will be soon. Arden didn't take the thermos. He stood there gripping a hammer. I have a letter, Sarah added quietly. From her. She asked me to give it to you when you started building something again. Not tearing down building. Where is it? With me. But I won't give it to you today. Why? Because if I hand it over now, you'll read it drunk. Or rip it up. Or hide it and never open it. She stood, wiped her hands on her jeans. I waited 8 months. I can wait a little longer. Sarah walked to her old Honda and started the engine. She rolled the window down. I'll come out here. Help out, if you don't mind. Arden didn't answer. She drove off. He stood among the wreckage and, for the first time in months, felt something besides pain. Something like curiosity, like hope. Sarah came every morning. She brought coffee, tools, sometimes lent a hand. They barely talked, only about work. Pass the nail. Hold the board. Careful, that's sharp. But her presence was different, not pushy, not pitying, just there. A week after they first met, rain came. Hard, sudden. They ducked under the overhang of the old bleachers. Do you always go this quiet? Sarah asked, wiping her face with her sleeve. Do you always push this hard? Only when someone needs it. I don't need it. You're lying. Arden looked at her. She smiled, not happily, a little sadly. Grace said you don't know how to ask for help, that you always carried everything alone. Even when it was hard for her, you'd say, I'll manage. She loved that about you, and she hated it. Don't talk about her. Why not? Because it hurts, all right? Sarah fell quiet, watching the rain. You're hurting. So am I. The difference is that I'm not running from it. I'm walking through it. You don't understand. I lost 15 friends in 2 years. I work in hospice. I see death every day. You think I don't understand? Arden clenched his jaw. They died because of me. No, you don't know. Then tell me. And he told her about the operation, about the civilians, about the balance that wouldn't let him sleep, about how he took 2 and 2 were taken from him. Sarah listened without interrupting. When he finished, she stayed silent for a minute. Then she said, That's the biggest load of nonsense I've ever heard. Arden flinched. What? The universe isn't a calculator. There's no balance. There's no built-in justice. There's just pain and randomness and what you do with it next. You have no right. I do, because Grace asked me to be here, not to pity you, not to let you disappear. Sarah turned to him. She knew you'd do this, that you'd blame yourself, that you'd find connections that aren't there, and she asked me to tell you the truth when the time came. What truth? That she didn't blame you, that Liam didn't blame you, that they loved you even when you were away, even when you made mistakes, and that the only person keeping you in this hell is you. The rain didn't let up. Arden sat, staring at the ground. I don't know how to get out. I do. Sarah held out her hand, one step at a time. He didn't take her hand. He couldn't yet, but he nodded. That evening the rain became a downpour. The roads flooded, the power went out. Arden sat in the dark living room when someone knocked. He opened the door. Sarah stood there, soaked to the skin. My house flooded. Can I stay the night? Henry was asleep upstairs. Arden let Sarah in, gave her a towel and a dry t-shirt. The couch is free. Thanks. They sat in the kitchen, drinking hot tea by candlelight. In the soft glow, Sarah's face looked younger, more tired. Tell me about her, she asked unexpectedly. About Grace. What do you remember best? Arden didn't want to, but the words came anyway. She sang while she cooked. Totally off key, just awful. But happy. And Liam would join in. Also off key. They'd put on concerts in the kitchen, and I'd sit at the table thinking this is the best thing that ever happened to me. Sarah smiled. She sang to me when I was in a bad way. After my divorce, I remember she sat by me all night and sang songs from the 90s. I kept asking her to stop, and she only sang louder. They traded stories until midnight. About Grace, about Liam, about moments that seemed small until they were gone. Then Sarah grew quiet. Do you want to know what she said? Yes. She said, tell him he was the best husband and dad I ever knew. That I understand why he did what he did. And that I want him to come home back to where people are waiting for him, not walls. Arden closed his eyes. She said, Liam will remember his dad as brave, not guilty, brave. Silence. Only rain at the window and the crackle of candles. I have that letter, Sarah said. Here, in my bag. Do you want to read it? Arden nodded. She pulled out a yellowed envelope and set it on the table. He opened it. Grace's handwriting, a little shaky but clear. My dear Arden, if you're reading this, it means Sarah did what I asked. She waited for the moment when you could hear. I don't know how much time has passed. A week, a month, a year, but I know you. I know you're blaming yourself, that you're looking for reasons where there aren't any, that you're shutting down and not letting anyone in. Stop. You are not at fault for what happened. You were at work. You were doing what you swore to do. It's just a terrible, unfair accident. I don't want you to spend your life on guilt. I want you to live. Truly live. Find meaning, build something new, let people be close. Liam loved you unconditionally. He was proud of you every day. When other kids talked about their dads, he said, my dad is the bravest. Not the strongest, not the best, the bravest. Because bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward even when you're afraid. Be brave now, Arden. Come home. I am always with you. Your Grace. Arden read the letter 3 times. His hands were trembling. When he finally looked up, Sarah sat across from him with tears on her face. She loved you, she whispered. I know. Then do what she asked. Arden folded the letter and slipped it back into the envelope. Then he stood and went to the window. The rain was easing. I don't know how. Sarah came to stand beside him. She didn't touch him. She was just there. You've already started. You're here. You're breathing. You're talking. That's something. They stood like that until the rain stopped completely. Then Sarah went to the couch and Arden went upstairs to bed. For the first time in months, he fell asleep without nightmares. The weeks that followed changed everything. Arden kept up with therapy, the night calls, the work at the stadium. But it wasn't running anymore, it was rebuilding. Syrah brought teenagers to volunteer at the stadium. Arden taught them how to handle tools, how to repair wooden structures. He didn't lecture, he just worked alongside them, answering when they asked. One day, Roy showed up. The VA is jammed with appointments. People wait 3 months for a first visit. We need someone who will just be there. Help fill out forms, explain the process, keep a grip on someone when the panic hits. Not therapy, just support. Think you can do it? Arden said yes. He started going to the hospital twice a week. He sat in the waiting room and helped veterans sort through paperwork. Some told him their stories, he listened. Others stayed silent, he sat in silence beside them. One time a young sergeant came in shaking all over. I can't go in there, he whispered. I can't talk to them. That's okay. But I have to. I need help. Then we'll just walk in. Together. I'll sit with you if you want. They went in. Arden sat in the office while the sergeant spoke with the psychologist. He didn't interfere, he was just there. After the session, the sergeant came out and wiped his face. Thank you. You're welcome. How do you do it? How do you not fall apart? Arden thought. I do fall apart. I just get back up again. That evening, he showed Grace's letter to his father. Henry read slowly, carefully. When he finished, he handed the letter back. She was right. I know. Are you going to listen to her? I'll try. Tell me, why didn't you come sooner? I was afraid I was too late. You were late, Arden admitted, by many years, but not for everything. Henry held out his hand. Arden took it. I won't forgive you for the past, the son said. Not now, maybe never. You don't have to. But I thank you for now. That was enough. Memorial Day came warm and clear. They had repaired the stadium not perfectly, but solidly. New bleachers, a painted fence, and a small platform in the middle of the field for speakers. The town gathered. Veterans, families, kids. Kira brought her students with wooden flags. Marisol organized the ceremony. Roy helped with the seating. Arden stood off to the side, holding a flag. Henry stood beside him also with a flag, old and faded, from Vietnam. Nervous, his father asked. Yeah, me too. The ceremony began. Children read the names of the fallen. After each name, a bell. When Sean Davis's name rang out, Arden closed his eyes. When they read the name of Henry's buddy from Vietnam, the old man set his jaw. Then Marisol called Henry to the platform. Henry Miller would like to say a few words. Arden flinched. His father hadn't mentioned this. Henry climbed the steps slowly and stood at the microphone. In his hands was one of his old letters. I'm not good at speaking, he began. I never was. So I wrote. I wrote letters I never sent. I wrote to my son, to my wife, to the people who were gone. I wrote because I was afraid to say it out loud. He unfolded the paper. This is one of those letters. I wrote it 40 years ago. I hid it all this time, but today I want to read it. Henry began to read. His voice trembled, but it didn't break. I was afraid. Every night, every day. Afraid I would die. Afraid I would kill someone. Afraid I would come home and not be able to be a person. And when I came back, I didn't talk about it. I thought if I hid it, it would disappear. But it didn't. It just ate me from the inside. And I lost the ones I loved because I didn't have the courage to be vulnerable. He lifted his head and looked at the crowd. If you're here today and you're hurting and you're scared to talk, say it. To someone, anyone, don't make my mistake. Don't bury the pain until it eats you and everyone around you. Silence. Then applause. Not loud, not wild, but real. Henry came down from the platform. Arden stepped forward and hugged his father. Awkward, tight. Henry hugged him back. Thank you, Arden whispered. For what? For bravery. After the ceremony, Syrah walked up to Arden holding something. A small frame. I thought you might want to keep this somewhere you'll see it. Not as an award, just as a reminder. Arden took the frame. A child's drawing by Liam. A house, 3 stick figures, the words, our family, in crooked letters. Where did you get it? Grace gave it to me that day. She said, If anything happens, give this to Arden. Let him remember that love doesn't disappear. Arden tightened his grip on the frame. Thank you for everything. Syrah touched his hand. She would have been proud of you. That evening, Arden hung the frame in the workshop he had set up in what used to be Liam's room. Not a bedroom, anymore a place for making things. Tools, boards, plans. Henry came in and looked at the frame. It's good here. Yeah. You really are building again. I'm trying. They stood in silence. Then Arden said, Stay here, not as a guest, as my father. Henry looked at his son. Are you sure you want an old grouch at home? No, but I want to try. Then I'll stay. 6 months later. Arden woke at 6 in the morning to the smell of coffee. He went downstairs. Henry was making breakfast, like he did every morning. They argued about baseball, about politics, about little things. Sometimes Arden lost his temper, went to the workshop, and pounded wood with a hammer. Henry didn't intrude, he just waited. Then they ate breakfast together. Arden worked at the local building co-op, restoring old houses. Sometimes he taught tactical medicine for the National Guard, not regularly, only when they asked. He wasn't hiding in work anymore. Every Tuesday and Thursday, he helped at the VAW. Every Wednesday, group therapy. Every Friday, the kids' workshop at the stadium. At night, he took calls. Not every night, only when he was on shift. He listened to people who needed a voice in the dark. Syrah came by often. Something had begun between them, not love, not yet, but trust, closeness, possibility. That night, the phone rang at 2 in the morning. A young voice, choked and desperate. Arden sat up and switched on the light. I'm here. Tell me what's going on. They talked for another hour, until the sky began to lighten, until the kid said he'd go home. Arden hung up and looked out the window. Dawn. Slow, hesitant, but real. He went downstairs. Henry was already up, sitting in the kitchen with coffee. Someone call.
Yeah.
Did you help? I hope so. They sat together, waiting for the sun to rise. Father and son. Not perfect, not fully healed, but together. In the workshop, the light burned all night, not as a warning, but as a beacon. For those looking for a way home. For those still building. For those who choose to live, even when it's hard. Grace and Liam won't come back. The pain won't disappear entirely. The guilt still comes at night. But Arden is not alone anymore. And that not forgetting, not a justification, not a balance. It's coming home. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out, because this is nothing compared to what's next. If you are under 18, don't even think about clicking next.